To date, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has adapted some very cool comic book storylines. Age of Ultron, Extremis, and Infinity Gauntlet to name but a few. There are, however, some far weirder, more controversial, and more messed up Marvel stories that haven't yet been covered in the franchise, but they have been hinted at. In this video, we'll take a look at just some of them. Don't you dare forget to hit that subscribe button. It's the only way to make absolutely sure you keep up to date with all of ScreenRant's great new videos. Demon in a Bottle. Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark is a mostly child-friendly character and as a result is idolized by children throughout the world. But he does have a dark side, or at least he has in the past, that involves ignorantly selling weapons to terrorists and womanizing to an astronomical level. He also seems to have had some issues with alcohol. He was holding a glass of whiskey in the very first scene we ever saw him in. And in Iron Man 2, those issues manifested themselves in the form of a highly irresponsible showing from the genius, billionaire, playboy, and supposed philanthropist. Stark got extremely drunk at his birthday party while wearing his Iron Man armor, and ended up both putting his guests at risk and fighting his best friend James Rhodes, who was wearing the War Machine armor. Oh, and he peed in his armor too. This was clearly hinting at the Demon in a Bottle comic book arc, a 1979 storyline in which Tony Stark descended into extreme alcoholism before eventually opening up and letting his friends help him through it. Marvel Studios must have had thoughts about the possibility of adapting the story onto the big screen before realizing it wouldn't be appropriate for the character and the franchise's target audience. Although for the MCU's more mature fans, it would undoubtedly have made for a very interesting movie. The Ultimates 3. It's a bit of a stretch to say an entire miniseries has been hinted at in the MCU in this instance, but the subplot we're referring to happened in 2008's The Ultimates 3. So in essence, that's what's going on here. We are, of course, referring to the rather disturbing, incestuous relationship that was going on in that story between Wanda and Pietro Maximoff, who are otherwise known as Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. The story actually saw the Scarlet Witch killed by Ultron and Hank Pym under house arrest at the Ultimates mansion. So there's a lot more than just incest going on in it, but that particular part of the story has definitely been hinted at in the MCU. Marvel Studios might not have actually wanted to hint at that story, but actors Elizabeth Olsen and Aaron Taylor Johnson had some mischievous fun playing around with the idea. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Olsen said, "In the comics, every time you see an image of them, they're always holding each other's hand and looking over each other's shoulder. They're always so close, it's almost uncomfortable. Aaron and I have been playing a little bit with those kinds of images just for ourselves. If you ever watch Avengers Age of Ultron again, you'll now never unsee the two actors doing that." Captain America, Steve Rogers. In 2016 and 2017, the Captain America Steve Rogers comic revealed a terrible secret. Captain America, the American beacon of courage, strength, and all that's righteous and moral, was actually a member of HYDRA, the evil organization dedicated to world domination in Marvel's comic books. There was a lot more to the story than that. It wasn't really the Captain America we know and love for a start, but that's a topic for another video. The idea of Captain America potentially being a HYDRA agent has been somewhat hinted at in the MCU, not least in the hero's own second movie, 2014's Captain America: The Winter Soldier. It was revealed that S.H.I.E.L.D., the organization Captain America had devoted the majority of his heroic efforts to, had actually been infiltrated by HYDRA, meaning Captain America had effectively been working as a HYDRA agent in the MCU without even knowing it. Moreover, in 2015's Avengers Age of Ultron, Tony Stark said to Steve Rogers that he didn't trust a guy without a dark side, to which Rogers replied, "Well, let's just say you haven't seen it yet," which certainly seemed to suggest that the MCU's Captain America had a dark secret of some kind. It's very unlikely that we'll ever see MCU Cap as a HYDRA agent, but it's certainly an intriguing thought to think he might be one. Siege. Okay, so this particular story wasn't exactly messed up, but it certainly had a very bizarre concept, and it was definitely hinted at in the MCU. In the 2010 Siege arc, Asgard was rebuilt in Earth's atmosphere, floating above Broxton, Oklahoma, weirdly enough, which gave the Norse gods and remaining Asgardian civilians a new home following the events of Ragnarok, in which the original Asgard was destroyed. Now, in 2017's Thor Ragnarok, the MCU's version of Thor purposely made Ragnarok happen by summoning Surtur to destroy Asgard in order to defeat Hela, Thor's evil sister and the Asgardian goddess of death. The movie ended with Thor and his allies, including any surviving Asgardian civilians, heading to Earth to start a new Asgard because, in the words of Odin, Asgard isn't a place, it's a people. Some people thought Asgard would subsequently be rebuilt on Earth, just like in the Siege story, allowing for a potential Siege movie in the MCU. But this year's Avengers Infinity War seemed to put a stop to that idea, as the vast majority of the Asgardians on board Thor's ship were killed by Thanos and his children. Of course, some of them, Valkyrie included, may have escaped, but the likelihood of a Siege movie ever happening still seems slim at best, given how many of them were killed, even though it would be awesome. Court-Martial. Court-Martial was the issue title for the infamous 1981 comic that is otherwise known as the Avengers number 213. In the comic, Hank Pym, in his yellow jacket guise, was causing an ongoing concern for his Avengers teammates, having displayed a number of bursts of reckless behavior in battle. The end result of this pent-up rage was Pym striking his wife Janet in his laboratory when she questioned his building of an adamantium robot that only he knew how to stop. Some fans have speculated that one of the reasons Pym's been depicted as an older man in the MCU is to disassociate him from that storyline, but it's certainly been hinted at regardless. At the start of the first Ant-Man movie, in the 1989 flashback scene, Howard Stark said to Pym, "Please don't let your past determine the future." This suggests Pym has a dark past in the franchise, which in turn suggests he may have done some questionable acts as a younger man that were reminiscent of his comic book counterpart. Domestic violence, perhaps? There's certainly something a little off about Janet in the MCU, and that could certainly be the reason why. Moreover, that first Ant-Man movie had Yellowjacket as a villain, which could be a nod to the identity Pym was using when he hit his wife in the comics. World War Hulk. The 2007 World War Hulk storyline was one of the best in recent memory from Marvel Comics. It saw the culmination of a series of events that began with the Hulk being tricked into going into space by the Illuminati and a life model decoy of Nick Fury, then finding himself on Sakaar fighting gladiatorial battles at the behest of the Red King. World War Hulk had the big green guy return to Earth to seek revenge on the Illuminati, at which point he rampaged across the globe in an almost unstoppable rage, smashing anyone and anything in his path. In the MCU, although he headed off into space of his own accord rather than being banished there, the very fact that he spent time as a gladiator on Sakaar was a hint towards a potential World War Hulk storyline moving forward. The Hulk refused to come out in this year's Avengers Infinity War, and it's been confirmed that it's not because he's scared of Thanos. So could it be because of all the pent-up rage and guilt of killing all those fellow competitors on Sakaar? If that's the case, the rage and guilt could manifest as a crazed Hulk who could take it all out on the MCU Earth. And with all the great characters in place to potentially oppose him, what an awesome movie that would make. Realm of Kings. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is absolutely teeming with fun Easter eggs and references, whether they be nods to other Marvel movies, Marvel's comic books, or otherwise. And one of the best came in 2013's Thor: The Dark World. In the second Thor movie, it was revealed that Erik Selvig had been institutionalized due to the mental trauma he suffered when he was mind-controlled during Loki's attack on Earth. He was seen scribbling what appeared to be a load of nonsense on a chalkboard at the institution he was in, but some of the stuff he'd written down was actually quite relevant. One of those things was The Fault, a tear in space and time that was a plot point in the 2010 Realm of Kings comic book arc. It resulted in the horrific reality known as the Cancerverse spilling into the standard Marvel reality. The Cancerverse is full of horrific creatures called the Many-Angled Ones, who would be seriously terrifying in live action as they're very Lovecraftian in their nature. There's also a group called the Revengers in the Cancerverse, which was of course the name of Thor's team in Thor Ragnarok, so that could be seen as a hint towards the Realm of Kings story too. A Realm of Kings movie would be amazing, but the Fault reference was probably just a fun Easter egg for fans to spot. House of M. House of M was a 2005 comic book story in which Scarlet Witch went insane after being responsible for the deaths of Vision, Ant-Man, and Hawkeye in the earlier Avengers Disassembled arc. As a result, using her reality warping powers, she uttered the words "No more mutants" in an attempt to alter the fabric of reality into one that didn't have any other mutants in it, but one that revived her victims and her lost children. Of course, there are no mutants in the MCU, not yet anyway, but there have definitely been some hints that this crazy story might be adapted into a movie at some point in the future, albeit with an altered plot. In the MCU, we know Scarlet Witch lost her parents, we've seen her lose her brother Quicksilver, we've seen her cause several deaths in Lagos, and we've seen her lose Vision. So it's as if Marvel Studios are setting her up for a mental breakdown. You know, once she's resurrected after being erased from existence in this year's Avengers Infinity War. So it could be that in an act of insanity, Elizabeth Olsen's version of the character has her House of M moment in the future, and alters reality to the point that mutants become part of the MCU. It would be a very convenient way of introducing the X-Men to the franchise after all. Thanos Rising. We've known that Thanos has been lurking in the MCU ever since 2012's Avengers movie, when the Mad Titan was revealed in the mid-credits scenes as being the mastermind behind the attack on New York City. He appeared briefly a couple more times, in 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy and in the mid-credits scene of 2015's Avengers Age of Ultron, but he finally made his presence truly felt in this year's Avengers Infinity War. Very little has been said about the prune-chinned villain's origins in the MCU, but they were touched upon in some of the scenes on Titan, when he explained to Doctor Strange about how life used to be on the planet. He also has a keen interest in kidnapping children, and although he treats them harshly and turns them into killers, he also seems to genuinely care about them, which could be due to his harsh upbringing on Titan. This, as well as the fact that Thanos has proven to be an extremely popular character, could therefore be hinting towards a Thanos origin story in the MCU, which would be reminiscent of the disturbing 2013 Thanos Rising arc in the comics, in which it was revealed that as well as being a very lonely child, Thanos was so hideous as a baby that his mother tried to kill him as soon as he was born. Marvel Zombies. Okay, so we're actually using Marvel Zombies to make a larger point about the possibility of countless stories from alternate Marvel timelines being brought to the big screen, because this particular point actually hints to a plethora of potential stories coming to the MCU in the future, with Marvel Zombies being just one of them. The point is, the idea of the multiverse has been introduced to the MCU, and it must have been introduced for a reason. We believe it's because characters and storylines from parallel universes are coming to the franchise, with Marvel Zombies obviously being one of the countless stories from Marvel's comics that fall into that category. The story was set in an alternate universe where the world's superhumans got infected with a zombie virus. In 2016's Doctor Strange, Tilda Swinton's Ancient One asked the titular character, "Who are you in this vast multiverse?" which certainly suggests there are more planes of existence to explore in the franchise. We've also seen the introduction of the Watchers in the MCU, and in the comics, the Watchers observe hundreds of parallel timelines, as well as the standard Marvel continuity. The possibilities for MCU movies being set in alternate universes, or for those universes to spill into the one we're familiar with in the franchise, are endless, and Marvel Zombies is definitely one we'd love to see in live action. Would you like to see any of these storylines adapted in the MCU? Can you think of any other messed up comic book arcs that have been hinted at in the franchise? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to ScreenRant for more great videos like this one. Bye guys!